There we go.
Yeah, I heard someone's click and I pressed it as they pressed it, so it should be okay.
Hello and welcome to the Mediate Podcast. It's been a while since we've done this, as is the trend. God, it's like Interstellar, where like our messages that we send are getting like further and further apart in time. Anyway, speaking of time travel, this is the 1999 episode about Chrono Trigger and Iron Giant. Okay, Iron Giant's kind of a stretch for the time travel joke, but you know. But Chrono Trigger is definitely all about the year 1999, which is why I picked it for this year, definitely on purpose.
I mean, it came out in 1999, obviously.
One version of the game did.
There was a version, there's a version of it that came out in 1999.
The Japanese release of the PlayStation version?
I think is it the Dreamcast version or something? That's like...
Because the version I played was not the original 97 version, it was when they redid it.
No, you played the original version.
No, I didn't, because it didn't have any of the cutscenes or anything like that.
Yes, that's what... The cutscenes were in the new version.
Yeah, I played
the cutscenes were in the version that I
think all of
picked.
you guys played the old one, didn't you?
No, it's the opposite.
Oh, right, I see.
Because the new version has the cutscenes, the old version doesn't.
Yeah, I specifically selected the version that had the cutscenes in, Ethan. I'm sorry if you missed those.
No harm, no foul.
He's failed Mediate Podcast. This is the weakest link.
Could you imagine that? You saw those cutscenes.
Those cutscenes, it was completely changed my opinion of the game.
This is Wolf Children all over again.
Alright. How do these podcasts work? What's the structure of them?
We start with honourable mentions, I think.
Honourable mentions.
Alright. Tony, this is your episode, even though you hadn't played or seen anything you picked. And I think I like both of them more than you.
We'll see. Yeah, but are we starting with honourable mentions first?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what was my one again, Harry?
Your one was Legend himself.
What, the Legend himself?
Just Legend himself.
Okay, I'm pretty sure that was from when you cut it off all the V's to maximise spreadsheet efficiency, though.
Wait, so is Legend himself not a thing then?
I think it. Well, yeah, it has a "the" in the front. What is it? I suppose it's like some ongoing rom-com / horror show that it's entering its 20th season at the moment. And yeah, it's quite middling to average, I'd say. What about you guys? What do you guys think of the Legend himself? Have any of you heard of it before?
No, I haven't.
You know when I first heard it, I was a bit like, oh, do I know this? And now I've realised, no, I do know this, and I know them quite well for at least however many years now.
I literally don't know what this is.
Yeah, I've never heard of this thing.
When I Google it, it comes up as a Destiny clan.
Jono, should we explain it? Because I like to think I've made it fairly on the nose at this point. But
what's been going on for 20 years since 1999 that has the pronoun him?
For God's sake. Alright.
Well, I think that's a great review of the Legend himself. Just for God's sake, Harry. That is my Mediate honourable mention for this year.
What about you guys? September 20 something, I want to say?
It's the wrong month.
Oh, it's October, isn't it?
October.
What a friend he is.
Yeah.
Let's just dox Tony.
We'll ignore the...
What's your mother's maiden name?
No, ain't telling any of you guys.
Jenny,
Jono? Jono?
Now my name is being said. Is that?
Oh yeah. I thought you were gonna say something that just sounded like you got cut off.
Oh, yeah, not worth saying really.
Okay, I'm gonna take this over. Honorable mention, Ethan. You picked Magnolia.
I did pick Magnolia.
Yeah. Why do you like Magnolia?
I like Magnolia for a lot of reasons, Harry. But it's a Paul Thomas Anderson film. One of his early ones. It's over 3 hours long. Should have chopped it in half. Yeah, that's the joke. No, it's a really good film. It's about a group of LA citizens and their sort of lives over a 24-hour period. I think it's set over the course of one day, and you literally just get this kind of slices of life sort of exploration into their lives, and it has this. I think it's going for a daily life thing of this is just a day in the life of these characters, but obviously that would be quite boring, so they do things to make it more dramatic, and they have the characters intersect, and there's all sorts of relationships going on, and they're constantly passing by each other without really connecting, and it's a really, really interesting film. It's got some fantastic performances, a lot of PTA regulars, and even though its runtime is quite long, I'd say it's well worth the watch. It's certainly one that I really like.
All right. One is The Loneliest Number didn't load on YouTube in time for me to play it over the mic. So
It's too bad.
yeah, we've missed out on that joke. But yeah,
It's the loneliest number that you'll ever. Oh fuck! I don't know the next.
Isn't that from The
Words?
Graduate?
all right, Johnny, you picked The Matrix.
I picked The Matrix.
Have we all
It's
seen
The
that?
Matrix.
Is that one of the only films that we've all seen?
I've seen it, yeah.
Whoa!
But I was like really young, so
Yeah.
One of the few
remember
films
when
that
he
we-
dodges the bullets. I remember that bit.
I saw the whole trilogy on holiday in like 3 or 4 days.
Ooh.
What do you think of the first one
Yeah.
then? Is it the best one? Why do you like it?
Yeah.
Why didn't you stop
Well,
after the first one?
Well, you know, we had all 3 films. So might as well get
There's
to
going to be a
the
fourth
end.
one.
Oh.
Johnny, why do you like it?
I mean, it's just such a classic in a way. With definitely for I can't remember exactly when it was. I watched it, what age, but like at that time, like the combat really stands out. And it's you know it's a good action film.
Fair enough. I saw it in cinemas this year for its 20th anniversary. It very much holds up.
It's well ahead of its time, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, I think it's ahead of its time, whilst also being the most late 90s, early 2000s thing I've ever seen. If you want something just to epitomise the decade,
It's a cubicle film. You saw that now, you see it.
that's the year of cubicle films.
Yeah.
Do you know what else was a cubicle film? My honourable mention, Fight
American
Club.
Beauty?
No.
Oh.
Fight Club's the other one. Fight Club's pretty good. I feel like everything about Fight Club that's has to be said has already been said. When has that stopped us before?
I'm surprised it's that old.
Yeah, I mean, it is again. I like The Matrix. I think it's quite ahead of its time. Does it have good politics? I don't know. It's satire, but it kind of failed in its purpose. So does that make it a bad film? Who knows? But it's got some good performances. It's got a twist. Top 10 plot twist you didn't see coming. Watch Mojo. Yeah, cool. Fight Club. You've probably seen it. If you haven't, you probably don't want to see it. Or you're Tony Wilson and you watch seasonal anime.
Haven't even been keeping up with anything.
What do you watch
Each
nowadays
season.
then, Tony? Anything?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Apart from fucking I don't know. My Own Life, which is not that great.
Legend himself.
Yeah. It has too many scenes, Ethan. And it has villains.
So does the legend himself? Yeah, does it have the coherent plot where the characters have a goal to reach, and then?
I wish, Harry. I literally wish.
Or is it more of a
I pray
character
for that
study?
every day.
Is it your
it's-
favourite
it's-
character study, Phil?
Fuck's sake. What's the
Alright.
characters? It's a show you watch more for the supporting cast, like BoJack Horseman.
I didn't like the subplot where he tried to do a podcast. That was weak.
It's a bit too meta, I'll be honest.
What about the one where he's searching for a golden amulet? Kind of went on a bit too long, didn't it?
Oh,
Oh.
should have stopped the show after then.
Should do it,
Anyway.
Frank. So is Mediate the Avengers Assemble of our individual franchises?
I mean, yeah. I suppose if you have all your own solo films, and this is the combination.
Retcon 2, I think in the 2000s, all of us are just going to put Legend himself. Alright. John's TV Roundup is a segment we also do sometimes.
Yeah. Briefly for this time, we've gone for Spaced because it's a show that I started watching a while ago, and then I don't think it was quite the right time for me to watch it then, but it definitely is now, and I want to go back to it.
I had the same
Um,
experience as you did. I watched maybe the first 5 or 6 episodes and thought it was pretty good, and then never watched another one for some reason.
I had the same experience. I watched the first few and then stopped for like a year, and then I finally went back and finished it. It's pretty good. I don't know why I stopped. I think it's
I
just
haven't heard anything about it, so
so it's
Among
you know
Us.
the Cornetto trilogy, Tony, of Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and The World's End.
yeah.
It's kind of the same creative team. So it was
Mhm.
Simon Pegg and Edgar Wright,
Mhm.
and is her name Jess Hines?
It's a what, sorry?
Is her name Jessica Hines? You know,
Yeah, Jessica Hines.
yeah, Jessica Hines. She also kind of wrote it, and she's kind of the co-lead. And it's also got like
Mhm.
Nick Frost appears a lot. Peter Serafinowicz makes like a very memorable cameo. Mark Keeps in the supporting cast. It's a lot of that kind of late 90s, early 2000s British comedy, like when they're coming up and they're going to make like a big splash with films like Shaun of the Dead, you know.
Mhm.
And
if my memory serves me correctly, the premise is they like cohabit, right? They're flatmates to just cut down on costs or something.
yeah,
isn't
so
that the-
they're both struggling to, after breakups, they both need somewhere to live.
That's it. Yeah.
So they decide to get a flat together, but the only way they could get this flat is to pretend to be dating. So they pretend they're a couple to own a flat. But that's very loosely the premise. Like, it hardly ever touches on that premise.
Yeah, that's true.
It's more about the characters.
That's
and
more like the first episode to kind of get.
So it is basically hashtag flatmates then.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And it's
Nice.
like, it's kind of built on pop culture. There's so many pop culture references. Because, like, it's 2 seasons long, and, like, in between season 1 and 2, the Phantom Menace happened. And, like, they talk about that so much. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. But yeah, it's a pretty good show.
Sounds good.
Sorry, Jono. I feel like that was not your TV roundup. Do you want to round it up?
That was Harry's Jono's TV roundup.
I mean, you've rounded it up better than I could, so we'll stick with that.
It was that or Family Guy?
This- Yeah, this is better.
Futurama.
What's your favourite Family Guy joke, everyone? Come on, you've
That
gotta
one with the
remember.
fire truck is pretty funny.
That is good.
Or the one where they're playing Fortunate Son
Yeah,
when he's
Fortunate Son might be my favourite.
The Michael Bay one is pretty good as well.
Oh yeah. That's the episode where they're just
That's
doing,
Tony's
like, shorts
Harry's
and they're
Jono's
three
TV
directors.
roundup, talking about Family Guy.
Alright. Do you know what we could talk about, Tony? Talk
The
about
game and or film.
Yeah, which one do you want to do first? Because they are your picks.
Is there normally an order?
So whichever one
I feel
we'd
like
rather
I feel like we should start with Chrono Trigger. I'm making the executive decision because I feel like we'll have more to say about it.
Mhm.
Okay, so to summarize, Chrono Trigger, it's a JRPG originally released in 1995, released by I want to say Square Enix, but I could be wrong.
It's
Okay,
before there was
and
Square
it's-
Enix.
oh yeah, okay. And it has like a twist on turn-based combat where it's semi-real time, so that your turn, like, it's not just like in order. You have like a speed stat, and that determines how frequently each actor in the combat acts and does like a move. And so it's sort of quite fast-paced, and also a big important part of it is the fact that if you sync up with like a teammate, you know, you fight in a team of 3 versus all the enemies, you can do like combo moves and stuff. And also it plays well with the space. It's not like Pokemon style or Dragon Quest style or Final Fantasy where they're just sort of static there. It's like the positioning of the enemies like on the map essentially when you're fighting. Makes sense, you know, it plays into like area of effect attacks, which is quite neat. You know, you time those cyclone attacks for it, and it has this. I will say it's very interesting world and story, and the characters that revolve around this very layered plot that you have to like keep mining your way through. It like has like, you know, like, oh, we have to just. It's kind of like Last of Us style, right? It invented the Last of Us style, where it's like, okay, we need to do X thing, and then you do X thing. It's like, oh fuck, we need to actually do Y thing, but you know, the ending's better. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's debatable, but you know what I mean. It's like a story that is constantly unraveling itself, and each time you go a layer down, it like, because it's about time travel, you know, spoilers.
Is that spoilers?
It might be on the cover, but you also could just play the game and just not know, and it'd be quite fun to just be like, oh, okay, that's what this is about.
Yeah, I guess.
It like opens up and you see the same, like, it doesn't have a massive map, like, you know, compared to like Skyrim, you know, map is tiny, but the fact that you see the same like area from like loads of different points in time, and each time you go to a new area, like completely like, whoa, like blows your mind. It's really cool. The world feels quite big, and the story it tells is very interesting. I think the characters are fairly neat. I think it does well to tell a story within the RPG Maker XP format. Like,
I mean, they made this is like making the format and stuff.
Yeah. And you know, I think it's not as story focused as something like To the Moon might be, obviously, but it still does a quite good job, and quite like it. Who does anyone else want to throw some opinions into the hot take stew?
Do you want me to give you a little bit about the making of the game?
Yeah, because I really
this is what
don't
I
know that
find
much.
more interesting than playing the game itself. The little behind the scenes reading that I did actually about the making of it.
So it was made in 1995, and I know
Mhm.
the meme is like 99 people, but it makes me like it more if I say 95. So I'm going to say 95 for the SNES, which is insane that it's run the SNES. And it was essentially three very talented men. I'm not going to try their names because I'm going to butcher them, so I'd rather just say what they're well known for. So it was the creator of Final Fantasy, the creator of Dragon Quest, and the creator of Dragon Ball, the anime. They all decided to work on a project together.
That's actually a dream team.
Yeah, so dubbed the Dream Team, it says on Wikipedia, my incredible source. So they were like, they sat down to kind of think of an idea for like this grand project they were going to work together. And on the first day, time travel came up, and they were like, no. And then they spent like ages trying to find something else, and they were like, let's just do time travel. And it
That's
turned
really
out
funny.
to be a success, in my opinion. And critically and commercially, it did incredibly well. I think it's one of the most kind of genre groundbreaking and defining RPGs of all time. I think part of the reason it's so like held in such high regard even now is that they didn't really like use it as a franchiser. Like Final Fantasy, a popular series, and people kind of debate 6, 7, 8, you know, which of that era was like the pinnacle of that series. But Chrono Trigger was just Chrono Trigger. It came out, was amazing. Got one semi-sequel a few years later, but nothing. It's just remained. I think that's kind of helped. It's the way
That's
it's
true.
kind of regarded.
There was rumors of there being a trilogy, like a third one, but I think that fell through at some point.
I don't think Chrono Cross sold very well. I don't know what it was about that, but it didn't strike. But
What do you mean by a semi-sequel?
Well, it's none of the same characters. It's not really the same premise, but it's set in the same world. I honestly,
There are,
Does it travel
I
between
think there are some
the same
overlapping
eras as
characters.
okay. I mean, I would be interested in playing it because I'm not gonna lie, I like Chrono Trigger quite a bit. But it was, I mean, this game was like quite innovative, especially at the time. Like, it's most famous, I want to say, for not just the time travel gimmick, but the having lots of different endings, which is the thing that like is pretty much
really
mandatory
cool.
in these kind of games now.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, Tony, the I can't believe, like, you know, when you see a game like a mechanic in a game, you're like, why is everything not just stealing this? Like Gears of War, every reload should just be an active reload because it's more fun.
Yeah.
Why has every turn-based combat game not just got the option to have Chrono Trigger's combat? Because it makes it less boring, especially early on. It's just it adds tension and excitement, and you can turn it off if you want. But the active turn-based combat is just adds that extra dimension, and like you said about the positioning of enemies and stuff. It's a really interesting system.
It really sells the idea of like frantically looking through your bag for like a healing potion because you're like, fuck, where is it? High potion, and you have to like fucking search through the menu for it. And screen just died. It does not feel clunky at all. Like it's the UI it shows you compared to something like fucking Xenoblade. You know, it's very clean and minimal. and well put together in a way that gives you the information you need. It looks really good.
The whole thing when you're walking in, you're not in the overworld, not on like the map overworld, but like when you're just walking around an area and you go up to an enemy and then combat just starts. There's no animation going into a battle stage. There's none of that. It just starts in the world.
Yeah, it's like what Pokemon has finally done now in 2019, but better. You know, you can just dodge encounters, and it can like do lots of interesting things with its dungeons and maps. How it like isn't just like, oh, you walk through the fucking Viridian Forest and you have to dodge 800 fucking Rattatas coming at you. It's
the
like
dark cave and Zubat appears.
it's a lot more like it can do more interesting things with its like setup and like exploring dungeons. Like some places will be like there'll be like turrets like and like enemies that are like hidden in the walls and a lot more interesting things like that. I think it's neato.
Do you think we should talk more about like our opinions now and what we all thought of it?
Yeah. I mean, I know. I quite like the story.
I mean, I really like the story and the gameplay as well. I feel like the other two don't as much, so maybe we should.
So I feel the story is much more a stronger point than the gameplay to me, because I do like when it comes. The combat system, the aspect I like is the way the team works together, the sort of cohesiveness of Chrono has a move where he spins round in a circle with his sword, and someone has a move where they just chuck fire at something, and you combine that, and now Chrono swings round in a circle, dishing out fire. That is... I'm surprised I've not seen anything like that sort of further on, really. I mean, probably there is, and I don't play these sorts of games.
It doesn't keep... But, I know Pokemon Black and White had like combo moves where there was like your starters could learn a fire and like a water move, and if you use them together it'd be like Steam Blast, but like it's nothing as like consistent and like well thought out as this.
Yeah, that aspect of it is such a good cohesive combat system. I'm less keen on the actual way you kind of integrate that with it being not, I guess, just very much free time. There's no real way to pause it except like hurriedly going into the tech menu.
Doesn't Space Hawk pause the game like FTL style?
I don't know. I
mean, I did that quite frequently.
I think it's important to say that there are lots of different versions. So, like, the game was SNES 95, which Ethan emulated, so he played the original. And then there was a 99 in Japan and 2001 in Europe and the US. So he could have done it for 2001 as well. Came out in on the PlayStation, and that was the re-release with the anime cutscenes that are really good.
Yeah.
And then in 2006, there's pretty much the definitive version, which was the DS version, which added a few new elements as well. And then I think
there's a couple more side stories, right, in the DS version, I want to say.
There's like a tiny, hardly, but there's tiny bits more content. And then there was a mobile version, which was like a mobile port, as good as it is. And then they tried to port the mobile version to Steam, and it was horrible. And then
so originally I was really like against people playing the Steam version, right? And I was like, you're fucking buying a SNES or whatever. But Harry, he did say like, they updated it, they did more work, and so I was like, okay, fine.
Yeah, they made it more in line with the DS version of the game. So the version on Steam is as good as it gets, really. Apart from the fact that I still think technically it's not great, because playing it crashed 3 times for me.
Yeah, it did crash fairly frequently. But that being said, for a game that's like 24 years old, or 20, however many years, it holds up. Like visually, the pixel art holds up really well. Like, it just looks so crisp, and in a way that a 3D game from anywhere that's near that old wouldn't.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'd say that's where it shines. Actually, I think from a design perspective, the game does look pretty fantastic, especially when you consider the aspect of how old it is. I think all of that is really, really good. I think the way the characters are designed, they're definitely extremely memorable, and especially I think the different eras that you can jump to and from all have like this really prominent atmosphere. So no two eras will feel the same way in any shape or form. You go to the future and it's post-apocalyptic, it's destructive, and then you go back to the when it looks like dinosaurs are roaming around still. And every area has its set atmosphere and environment, and I think that really adds to the game quite a bit. But I think that I actually have the reverse stance that Jonathan has, where the combat I didn't mind as much. It was the story that let it down for me. The thing about the combat that I did like is the fact that there is that idea where it's not just turn-based combat. It does have the twist to it, and the music during those sections is really good, and that kind of carries that through. So the combat itself was all right. The storyline I had issues with, and I will completely admit on my part, I should not have played this game with such large spaces in between as I did, but I was just really not invested in it. I felt that they sort of threw way too much exposition and information your way too quickly, and it was hard for me to remember stuff, and then I just completely lost interest. And then when you add the idea of not playing it in a while, coming back to it, you almost feel like you've lost the plot, and then by the end of the game, I know it's a bit cheating, but I just ended up just looking through a guide to do everything, so I wanted it to be done as soon as possible, because I just didn't care about the plot. I will admit that there were some parts where the plot did win me back a little bit. I think especially the part where Chrono goes, and you've got to find a way to get him back. I think that part is where it did win me back a little bit towards the end. But apart from that, the storyline didn't really do it for me. I felt that the game wasn't really trying to meet me halfway. It was just trying to throw a load of stuff at me and seeing what would stick. And when you add the idea of jumping between time periods as well, from a narrative perspective, it makes it even more confusing to try and remember what's been going on.
I mean, I personally didn't find it like too hard to follow what was going on. I feel like it does a fairly good job of like using the time travel thing in a fairly like limited way. Like it's never like butterfly effects out of control. It's almost predictable in a way what you can like change in the past to change the future, which helps things keep things a bit clearer. I don't know, I just kind of like early on I feel like it does a good job of having its Godfather wedding scene with the fair.
Oh my God,
and then from there just spiraling into like more and more memorable moments, such as the trial, which is really funny and comes back at the end as well.
Yeah, I do think the beginning definitely. I think the beginning definitely does a good job hooking you in and throwing elements and things like the pendulum and characters that you bump into, and I think especially, but I can't remember. Is he called Melchior, that character?
Mm-hmm. The wizard guy
exactly.
who makes the weapons.
Wait, can I slightly disagree there? Because for me anyway, I feel like the fair is I mean it's okay. I agree with Tony. It's the basically Godfather wedding. But then you were transported back in time. You have to save the princess, and for me that kind of beginning stretch is very, very dull. I was worried for my prospects in this game. I was like, this is just some generic fantasy bullshit. I don't like this at all. And then it's the moment you come back, and there's the trial, and then we'll just talk about it now. It basically reveals that everything you were doing at that fair, the game was recording, and it punishes you based on that behaviour. And I have never seen a game do this before, where it just gives you complete free reign to do what you want, or secretly noting down what you're doing and then punishing you later on. And at that point, I was like, this is one of the funniest, most like creative things I've seen in a game ever. And like the game just continued to be as kind of creative and funny throughout. Like I feel like this game is funny. Like I enjoy its sense of humor. And with the story in general, this is just more of a generic point, but I feel like it's very ballsy and it's not afraid to make you confused for like 10 hours before explaining something. So like with the being hard to follow the plot, sometimes I was like fully invested paying attention and finished it in about a week, and I struggled sometimes because you'll just meet a character and then they'll be like, oh okay, and then like that will pay off hours later. And the game holds a period of history from you until right at the very end, the kind of period where everyone's like magic and shit. I can't
Yeah.
remember the proper name.
The
but
antiquity.
that basically has the answers to every single mystery and question in the game. Just the existence of that period. You kind of you learn like characters' origin stories. You know why the world is the way that it is. You know obviously the threat is revealed earlier, but so much is kind of learned from that period.
So I have no problem with being left out of the loop for some time while the plot goes on until they decide to explain some things to me. It's just for me, I've got to feel like I'm rewarded for my patience, and I didn't really get that with this game.
See, I think for me there's a lot of good payoffs. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, you didn't enjoy it because you didn't have the cutscenes, but all the cutscene moments are such good moments. They're such
They really sell the
satisfying
hype.
moments. Yeah, like I think the one I remember most is when you reforge the Masamune and then Frog wields it, and like because you met that
really
character
sick.
earlier, and then obviously the Chrono's death. Like which game has the balls to kill the main character halfway through, and then make it an optional side quest to save them? Like,
especially since it's such like a. Like, I would imagine, like, a more story-heavy game doing it. Like, in, like, I can't believe I'm bringing this parallel up twice, but Last of Us has that moment, right, where you switch to being Ellie. And that almost makes more sense, since Joel is, like a fleshed-out character, right? And it's, like, makes sense, like, okay, we'll kill him for this... knock him out for this dramatic moment.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that the Chrono is such like a deadpan, like generic faceless RPG guy,
he's a JRPG protagonist.
He is JRPG man, and he is just meant to be such like a generic stand-in for just you. The fact that it just kills you off, and it's like, yeah, deal, and it almost makes it hit way more. It's like, oh wow, I have to be magus for a while, which is really cool.
That segment when they kill him, and it's like, you suddenly realise how much you care about all the supporting characters and like the way they interact. And I found like after the period in which he was dead, my party composition was really interesting, you know. And like I found kind of new kind of, because the game doesn't allow you to customize your party until that point, and then suddenly you don't even have to play with him anymore. Even when you get him back, it's kind of it just unlocks it entirely new fusions. And I mean, I'll get onto my criticisms after. People who dislike the game more have kind of dunked on it a bit more. But one of my kind of criticisms is the fact that it locks a lot of the content behind the last few hours, like a lot of the best content. I kind of wish.
Yeah, the side quest stuff.
But even like the ability to kind of, when the fusion moves are so good, it's actually hard to unlock some of the 2-person, 3-people ones because you have Chrono constantly in your party.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I do like that it sort of opens up that scope towards that last moment. Like, apart from the fact that the boss fight has like 5,000 final forms, I feel like the final arc is a really good like culmination, like tying everything together thing.
Yeah, well, everything like this game, there's so many different. I mean, not different ways to approach it, but there's so much content in this game. It's kind of hard to cover everything. And like the final boss, I feel is a good amalgamation of that, because there are so many ways you can approach that final boss. You can essentially, I think there's like a black ship in every time period.
Yeah.
You can go through it on every single time period before fighting the boss, or you could do it once. You can beat the final boss anytime you want because it's always there in that kind of hub world, which is so genius. I love that they have that. And if you try and do that, you have to take on every single boss you fought in the game. It becomes that. You can fly your your time travel machine, Epoch, into it, and then that will bypass that stage, but it means you get a slightly worse ending. You know, there's so many like different cool ways to approach it, and that's what makes Chrono Trigger get great. It's the variation and the way it kind of it's got a very strong sense of narrative, and it has very interesting stories to tell. It also allows you to kind of completely miss the stories if you want, which I really respect.
I do understand why they didn't have more like completely like I get why they kept this sort of branching out stuff towards the end, because if that had been earlier, it would have tripled or quadrupled their workload, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's a lot better than, I'll say, like the Telltale system, where it's choices that immediately like reconverge, you know, and you can tell that's like, okay, well, guess that didn't matter. But where it's like the end of Chrono Trigger, it's like, okay, you can go and do this thing and have the impact of that just be permanent. It's quite neat, like making the forest, you know,
Yeah,
with
I feel like
with
a lot
Robo.
of those moments are kind of character moments as well.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish those character moments had been thrown out more around the game. Like my feeling is that Chrono Trigger, the 1995 version or whatever kind of updated version, it's still the same game, is one of the best games of all time. But like a full-on remake probably would be the best game of all time. In just like the skeleton is there. If you could flesh out the content and take this story, these characters, the amount of creativity and joy in this game, and
I do worry
modernize
though,
it.
because if you were to try and update a game like Chrono Trigger, the first thing would be, all right, well, let's make it fully open world, because that's like the whole shtick of games these days, right? That's sort of, I guess, what they're doing with the new, like, you know, with Zelda, right? That's where it went. But with this, I really like the two important things: that your movement speed is really fast in the overworld and in like the map overworld, so you can just dart around the entire map, like, you know, instantly. And then you also get the epoch, you know, to go wherever you want.
But that's where the game
Whereas
really
if the
opens
game-
up, when you
Yeah.
because giving you the ability towards the end to suddenly freely jump through time allows the developers to kind of put more of those puzzles in, and more of the kind of great jokes and great storytelling moments of like, oh, he's greedy, we have to go back in time and make his father not greedy or my mother not greedy by giving her something. And then
By giving them that spice jerky. Yeah, I like moments like that too.
I kind of wish there'd been more of that throughout the rest of the game. But like that's not a massive criticism. I just like, it's annoying that the best content is entirely optional and at the end. So if you're rushing to finish the game for a
That's
podcast,
true.
you might not play it.
That's true. I'm glad I did make the commitment to be like, no, I want to do all the side quests. Because I was like, you know, looking up a guide like Ethan was, so fair play to him. when I was
Definitely
stuck just
use
to
a
try
guide for
and
some of them.
cut
They're
down
very
time.
fucking obscure.
Yeah, some of those things I would have never got in a million years. But I was like, fuck, I've totally forgot what I was gonna say. I was like trying to cut down on time, so I get why you would do that, I suppose.
Johnny and Ethan, I haven't heard from you guys now.
Yeah. So I agree, because I feel like a lot of the best stories are in the last sort of bit, where it's kind of frees you up and you've got the epoch to go around and like fully explore this world that you've been stuck in for quite a while. I don't know, possibly, well, for me it came just as I got disinterested in it quite early on, really, but like it still wasn't enough to really bring me back and want to necessarily play more once I reached that point. But I think because the story elements are mostly fairly typical things. It's just how they deviate from like a usual story of this sort of game. Like how was mentioned with the trial at the beginning, just how it plays off what would be the normal opening of a game like this, a game in this genre. I think those are the strongest moments, is when it deviates from that. For me, it never did anything as interesting as what it did in that trial in the opening moments. But it had, it's got some good things there, but it just always felt like a chore to play in a way.
That's
for me.
fair enough. I think Ethan has a similar thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
for me, I guess I've always found it a lot more easier to play long form RPGs. So I suppose I you know, normally I've never had to be like, all right, I have a deadline for this RPG. I'll just like play it, you know, when I want and have spare time, which did make me miss playing it on a DS, because even playing Pokemon Yellow on like a tablet, which is fairly portable, or playing Chrono Trigger on the electric jet, which is, you know, easy to take around. It's just not the same. It's just a DS which you just flip the screen on and it's all there.
And
But,
the other thing is, I know that I've played really long games in the past and enjoyed them, But when you find out that it's going to be like a 30-hour game, that can be quite daunting. And when you start playing it, and even if it's off to a decent enough start, then you start to kind of lose interest in quite quickly. And the rest of the game kind of feels like a bit of a slog. And you just, by the end of it, you are just like, I'm sorry, I want to get to the end point as quickly as possible so I can move on to the next thing for the podcast sort of thing.
I'd say as far as RPGs that go, though, Chrono Trigger isn't too long. Like, you can beat it in about 20 to 30 hours.
Yeah, it's like half the usual length of
Yeah.
something of its kind.
It's completely
Which is
refined.
good.
Like, for me, there's barely any filler. Obviously, I like JRPGs, the one I've played, Pokemon, and RPGs in general, because there's just that satisfaction of leveling up and constantly getting new shit and trying new shit. And this one helps because the way the leveling up works is like, I think your party gets 75% of all XP earned, even if they're not in combat. So everyone stays pretty moderately leveled, so you're not punished for suddenly just changing your team. And you're encouraged to do that so you can get kind of new techs and stuff. And that's good. It's a game that, like, a lot of games that have like a magic system, I normally just completely avoid that because that's just not what interests me normally. But this is very accessible, it's very easy to use. And also, I will just say, we haven't mentioned it yet, but I absolutely love all the characters. I feel like it's such a simple but great concept of just like a time travel game where you hop around different periods trying to stop one kind of point where the world's going to end, and you take different characters from all these periods and have them interact. One of my favourite moments is I think what the game wants you to do is it wants you to have the two kind of people Chrono meets. I'm going to be bad with names, like Marley and the other one. Who's the tech one?
Luca.
I never use Luca. But I think it wants you to have them because they have a more of an emotional bond to Chrono. But I just used Ayla and Robo. And like when Chrono dies, they just have the worst reactions. It was like, no, Chrono gone. And then Robo like does some like long kind of drawn out explanation of what happened. And I just found that quite funny. That the game just let me fuck up emotional moments. Like,
Yeah, but it also does the same thing where it really rewards you having the right characters for certain side quests. Like when you take Magus back to fight Ozzy, and like all the dialogue is centered around having him there. It's like, oh man, that'd be really cool.
That is true. That's a great character, Magus, the big guy. He's such a good character because like his boss fight is like the first difficulty spike in the game. That's the first time you're really gonna have to like think about what you're doing. Otherwise, you can literally just auto attack and win pretty much most fights. But yeah, that's a difficult boss fight. And then you kind of because you think this guy is summoning the big bad, right? You think this is the main villain, and then you realize he's summoning it to kill it. You get the twist with the overseer. I can't remember what the character's name is. It's been a bit too long. It's like this overseer, and it turns out to be him. And then the young character that says you're gonna die. That bit's done a bit poorly. That turns out to be him when he was younger, and you're like, whoa, it's a tragic character. But then you also kind of hate him because of the whole frog thing. So the game gives you the choice to recruit him. It's also like, obviously I wanted to recruit him because why wouldn't you? But I had to contemplate whether I wanted the kind of catharsis of letting Frog defeat him. And like you can say about the good and bad endings, like depending on if you kill him or not. The only endings you get where Frog turns back into Glenn is when you actually kill him, which is interesting. Also, the game lets you name the characters. What happens if you try and name Frog Glenn? Because I felt bad and wanted to change his name to Glenn when I learned that his name was Glenn.
What I did is there's a point in the game where you can rename your characters, and so I did that. I renamed Frog to Glenn before I went and did Glenn's side quest, and so it tied in nicely with all the characters actually being like, okay, we're going to call him Glenn now, and it made sense when it was like people that knew him as Glenn were calling him Glenn, which made sense.
Yeah, because I had, when it came to naming Magus, I named him Janus, which I think is the name that he's got when he's a child. So I sort of went for a kind of similar thing of like, oh well, you're not. let's name you as when you were slightly more innocent than a child. The weird naming thing I did was because to start off with I was just giving them my own names, and then like Harry saw and was like, oh that's And then the next character I had to name was Robo, so I just called him Frog.
It's only because I knew that we'd have to do a podcast and we'd be talking about the characters and you wouldn't know who we'd be talking about. That was my thinking.
Yeah.
It is kind of the Don Barrow thing of like, okay, if you're gonna name someone a joke name, say it 1,000 times, and if it's still funny, then do it. But no joke is that funny.
The Lexus. Alright. Chrono Trigger.
Silence.
Good game.
It is really
Can we
good.
just say it 1,000 times?
Well, I would like 1,000 more podcasts of Tony and Harry agreeing.
Yeah, this is like
John
I
and Ethan
really
being on the evil side.
I rarely agree on the game. I really like the games you pick, Tony. That you often go for like more kind of mechanics-based games. I've noticed, like they obviously interest you more. But for me, I'm always captivated more by a story. So like some of the things you picked, like Mirror's Edge, didn't I like them, but they didn't really work for me as well. Actually, that's a lie because I
Like
like
FTL,
and that's not mechanics driven. But
it's a bartending action game, Harry. You know, you got to drag that bromide extract or whatever.
But yeah, this is the one game you picked that I really liked. It's worked for me very well. I can see myself.
That's good.
Revisiting it a lot.
60 episodes of Mediate. It was worth it.
Yeah, it's very rare that me and Jonathan will agree on a game. Actually, now that I've looked through it,
I have a feeling John will rate it higher than Ethan will, though. Just judging by tone.
Oh yeah, I think I just have to say that both the Iron Giant and Chrono Trigger get in my top 20 games and films of all time, and I hadn't experienced either of them before you picked them for the podcast.
I'm really surprised you hadn't seen Iron Giant, because I feel
hadn't
like that's a
properly
really
seen
common
it,
kid
but
film.
I'd seen it when I was
see what you
very
mean.
young, and I kind of remembered it, so I count it as seeing it for the first time.
Okay,
Doing the podcast.
fair enough. Loud. I'll allow it.
Alright, should we move on, or should we... Any other...
Yeah, I think we should wrap up our... Unless anything else to say, we should just say our final points and give it some scores.
I mean, it's pretty good, isn't it? Good story, good characters. I feel like we haven't touched on like specific elements of the story. Partially that's because I played it so fucking long ago, I can't remember. It's too many of the specific elements. But I just want to keep saying, it's a funny game. I like games that like have a sense of humor and like are slightly self-aware. And like, I know Undertale is going to be great. I haven't played it yet. I will. But like, in terms of
How many times have you attempted it?
I'm gonna have to restart it again.
No.
In terms of dismantling RPG tropes, Chrono Trigger does that well. There are a lot of great moments where like there's a room you go into and there's a boss just standing, a big enemy, and you just walk past him. The game lets you walk past him for like 20 seconds before he goes like, "Oi, come in."
That's really funny.
Yeah.
I do remember one joke that sticks out, which is like you read a note that tells you about the dragon tank, and it's like it's pretty much invincible. The only thing that would stop it is someone running up and hitting it with a sword. And I'm like,
that's great.
That's really it is very funny.
There's so much charisma in the animation as well. Like the charm. It's just such a charming game. Like that point when you blow up the dragon, and then the bridge blows up, and then the people who are piloting there like grab onto each other to make a bridge, and then the bridge in that area is just permanently those 4 people hanging on. There's so many like brilliantly animated moments like that. The music's great. I don't know if we mentioned the music. That bit where it just becomes Akira, you do a bike race.
You meet that one character for that one scene.
God,
yeah.
It doesn't linger. It just it does its thing and then moves on. And then sometimes you go back to an area, but it's pretty much you go somewhere once, you do it, you move on to the next place. Because there are so many different time periods, it can do that. And it's only towards the end where you start kind of revisiting places to do the side quests. And good game. Like it a lot.
Do you want to score it right now?
Yeah, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. The reason I give it a 9 is because like I think I've criticised it too much, but I kind of wish some of the best content was spread out a little bit more. It feels like the end's a bit of a rush. Like I say, I feel like not a remake, but like just something like that. Like
a spiritual successor.
Yeah, I feel like you could iron out some of the kind of small little problems with the game, and it would be a perfect game. But yeah, it's a very solid 9 out of 10.
Yeah, I'll go next. I'll say I agree a lot with Harry says. I think a good strength of it is that it doesn't have a lot of the traditional bloat you'd associate with like an RPG. You know, it does feel quite refined, and I do think agree with the humor. A lot of the pixel art does stand out as really good, especially the environments. Like when you go into the antiquity and it's this like ice age that is just like all encompassing, and then you go up and you see like just like the floating islands in the sky. And a lot of video games, you know, what they do is they'd have like a press Y to look at cool thing button, and then your characters would have like a 5-minute dialogue being like, wow, isn't that so cool? And you'd be like, yeah, I guess it is. But this game, it just lets your reaction be the reaction in the scene. It lets you just feel the impact of those, you know, the hard hitting moments. Like there are some great moments. This like when you see Lavos just destroy the entire world multiple times if you keep losing the boss fight. It's really funny.
Oh, we didn't talk about the boss fight. It's very funny that the gimmick is you just have to attack its core, which is its right arm. That's a funny joke.
That is, and it is something that is incredibly ballsy to do, is like have a gimmick like that for the final boss, but it is at the same time a perfect encapsulation of the mechanics of the game. So points for that, but it immediately loses a point for having Grand Stone, which is the most powerful physical attack. And I kind of love that it is the flex of it, just like it says like, hey, this is Grand Stone, the most powerful physical attack in the game. We're gonna do it right now. And if your team is not at full health, you just die. You just have to do the boss again. Fuck you. It's really funny. I was kind of mad, but I was kind of funny at the same time.
Because like I feel like if you've done all this optional content, you're kind of over leveled. So...
I was quite high level. I was just, I don't know. I wasn't using the menu pause thing at the same time, so it was really hard to keep everyone healed.
Yeah, I feel like if I hadn't, because like most of the game I didn't, but last few kind of areas and bosses I started doing that because I was like, I am very much struggling here. This is too advanced for me. I'm trying to pick moves that are right down in the menu. It's taking me like a minute to get to them.
Oh yeah, you have to go to the very bottom of the fucking table to get to like Luminaire, which is, I fucking love that move. Just Chrono just becomes like a nuke, and it's like, yeah, you just win.
Are you gonna give it -1 point for the napalm?
it just has like white phosphorus in it. It's like, ooh.
Is Chrono Trigger political?
Well, I mean, it has kings and stuff. It has a lot about law. It probably is political in some way. But I think I'll give it a solid 8 out of 10. Most RPGs that are like really long ones, I play multiple times, and so like I'll play like, you know, Pokemon Diamond or Pokemon Explorers of Sky like fucking 3 or 4 times, and I think that is a strength of RPGs, which maybe Jono and Ethan don't feel as much as I do, or maybe Harry does, in the sense that it is less like if Chrono or Ayla or any of those people were like film characters, you know, you'd kind of see like they're a bit 1D, you know, they're a bit kind of just a gimmick, you know. But the fact that you spend so much time with them, ironically, in a game about time, in Chrono Trigger, it really sells that connection. It's like, oh fuck, I've been trying to kill mages for 50 hours, you know. That's an exaggeration, but you know what I'm saying. Like, it builds up weight in the way that like a smaller story couldn't. So it's really good. Yeah, I'll replay it one day and get more of those extra endings. But I think that's all I want to say for now. I'm glad Harry liked it.
The one person that liked it.
You know, Jono and Ethan's opinions, they count for half. So, you know, oh well. I'm kidding.
Sorry, I'm dying on this podcast. I'm gonna die.
We'll get that doll of Harry. We'll get that doll of you from that weird minigame. Oh yeah, another thing. All right, this is my final message, but I'm gonna end on a down note for Chrono Trigger. The like, because I played on a keyboard for my laptop, right? The like mini games where you have to press buttons and the text is like you have to press the A button.
Yes.
and you have to like translate it. Like, oh fuck, okay, the A button is actually the X button, and those moments where I get why they tried to break up the pace, but they suck. They're just really bad. But you know,
There are too many dance scenes as well. There are a lot of moments where you just dance.
oh man, I love that. I love that the dance at the start of the game that is at the fair comes back like 20 hours later when you see the cavemen dancing. It's really funny.
I love as well how accurate they are. Like, if we were to try and guess what the cavemen did, like what sort of music, what sort of dance they did, we would not get it exactly right. Like, they're in exactly the right costumes, listening to exactly the same tunes.
It's a lot of the same. Actually, I feel like I keep going. I will stop. But it has the same sense of humour, which does get annoying if you do it too much. But I think it holds on. It's the Back to the Future sequels, where every joke is just a thing you have seen before in a different time period. Someone going, Because Back to the Future is perfect in the amount it does that. But the sequels kind of go too far. The third one is just every single thing is a thing you've seen in another film, and that's meant to make it funny. But Chrono Trigger has a little bit of that, where that time travel, that unique time travel humour of just showing you a thing you already know.
Alright, so let's get to Jono and Ethan.
I think that Jonathan should go first so that we can end on the worst note possible for this game.
Yeah, but then we'll rewind time, Ethan. That's our gimmick.
And what make Harry go last?
It's a flat circle.
It's a flat circle.
Yeah, go ahead then, Jono.
Yeah. So it's. I don't know, because it's one of those games where I appreciate its existence, and I can see how it was very good for the genre and the importance it had in bringing up a lot of these ideas that it's. Yeah, the main thing I appreciate it is playing a game from over 20 years ago, and it still feels original, which is an impressive thing to achieve, which sort of shows how original it must have been at the time, and the way it sort of pushed forward with a lot of things. But as something to actually play, I didn't really get much into it. Didn't find it too satisfying. The combat, like, I liked one aspect of it, the sort of the combo part of it, but the real time nature, I don't like time pressures on manipulating a menu. That's when it's sort of like, when that's part of your combat, you know, maybe you can get away with it with the sort of Dark Souls thing of like, it means you have to really think if you're going into your bag. But this then sort of becomes like, well, it's at least in Dark Souls, if I want to attack, I press one button. If I want to roll away, I press another. In this, I've got to scroll, click, look through. This one, and okay, that was a lot of time for just one decision.
I see what you're saying.
I don't think the sort of thing where you've got that many moves, I don't know. If you've got a whole list of moves like that you've got to do and you manipulate them using a menu, that to me fits a lot better to completely pause time, thinking it through a tactical thing.
I feel like...
And I think you end up with a monstrosity when you try and blend the two that doesn't work. Like, sort of Harry saying how, like, near the end he needs to turn it so it's paused when it's in the tech menu to, like, get with some of the tougher bosses. That's you having to deal with the fact that this system doesn't work.
True, but it does give you the option. It does give you the option.
It's not like... If it was like, they patched it in later because people are complaining about it, it'd be a problem with the game. If the game gives you two both valid methods of doing something, it's not a problem with the game that you choose one of the methods over the other. Because Tony did it using one method.
But for me, it's not enough of like it pauses when it reaches one of your people's turn, and then maybe you can press another button.
Your cursor
to move it to the
starts
next
on
ones.
the last thing you used, or you can do that in the settings. So you can just like press A the second it comes to your turn.
Yeah.
It's not like a massive thing.
I feel like...
I didn't notice a lot of these settings. I did go into the settings quite a few times.
Well, did you play the Steam version?
So I've just... Yeah, Steam version.
Strange.
So I don't know. I clearly wasn't good at manipulating the settings. But it is another sort of thing of like, well, if... I don't know. I don't want to be tinkering around too much in the settings of the game to find a version of it that I like to play.
But at the
it's sort
same
of a
time, if
halfway
you're going to
meeting
play a
of-
game for 30 hours,
Yeah.
either
Yeah.
way, I don't know. I feel like if the game was going to be completely pause start like a traditional RPG, I feel like there'd have to be a lot more like numbers and stuff involved. Like, you know, like with Pokemon, right? You can see like each move. You'd be like, okay, it has like a fucking page that you can read. Like it's got 90 accuracy, 150 power. You know, it does this stats effect and this. But where it's Chrono Trigger, it's just a list, and it's just like, okay, do I do fire or napalm? And I'm just like, oh, fuck, one of them. You know, which I feel like it really sells the tension of some of those boss fights. It definitely got a bit annoying when fucking the boss was like, all right, I'm just gonna halve your health right now. Get fucked. But you know, I kind of like it. I kind of appreciate it for the, you know, those rough edges. But that's just me. Do you have anything else you want to say, Jono?
No, I think I've summed up my gripes and my likes of this.
One question:
Right.
do you think if you weren't playing this for review, you would have finished it?
Arguably, I didn't finish it playing it for a review. I got the ending where you just get killed by Lavos.
Did you beat the boss?
No.
Ah, I guess that invalidates your score then. And this is above like a 6. In
No,
which case
no,
I'll allow it.
it's a genuine. Well, it is 6. Is the score.
Oh wow.
But
All right. Do you see the
yeah,
credits for that
it's-
ending though?
Yeah, I've watched all of the ending when you fail to win. When in the opening second of the combat, just his nipple cannons come out and he just decks your whole party. So that's the ending I'm happy with. Is I get one-shotted by Lavos's nipples.
I'll be honest. I was kind of feeling like a bit of fatigue, right? Like I didn't like I appreciate that Harry liked it, but you know, I was struggling to find the time, and I think ending on the high note of beating the boss and getting the whole victory lap has made me look back on Chrono Trigger a lot more fondly than I otherwise would have. I'm not saying you have to finish it, but you know, that's just a point
The
to be
ending
made.
where you lose is a valid then.
Does it show you the end credits though? Is my thing, because is that an ending?
I'd say
I
it's an
felt
ending. It's a shit
Well,
ending,
at least when-
but it's an ending.
Yeah, it goes on for a really long time.
Actually,
as
true.
well.
That's a punishment for failing. That's a punishment for dying to the ultimate physical move. That's what makes it so powerful. Is you have to watch the game end. Okay, but fair enough.
So 6, but you know, maybe if I did get a better ending, it might be higher. But at this point, it feels like a 6 to me.
Okay, Ethan.
So I am gonna give it a lower score. I pretty much completely agree with Jonathan. Actually, I think the game does surprisingly hold up. I mean, he said it was over 20 years old, and it is over 20 years old, obviously. And to go back and play something like that is it still feels original now, and must have been even more so back then, is quite a feat, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, I can really admire it and respect it for what it was able to accomplish in the video games world. But when it actually comes to playing the game itself, like I said, I thought the characters were quite cute and funny, and yeah, sure, they did have charm and charisma.
Mm-hmm.
And I do like the actual look and design of the game, but where it really lacks for me is a plot that either rewards patience or a plot that actually takes time to get you through it, rather than just, I mean, for what's quite a long game, feels like it's just rushing you through and rushing you through and rushing you through.
I wouldn't have wanted it to be longer though, is the thing.
No, I know, I would have wanted less. I would have wanted less and maybe more time actually explaining things, rather than just having plot developments every 5 seconds, which doesn't give you much time to breathe. So that's my problem. I lost interest. What can I say? So I'm really not looking forward to playing to like reviewing Pokemon Yellow, because it's gonna be an even lower score, because that game really is just like, every time I think about playing that, I just want to chuck the DS at the wall.
Don't, because it's my DS.
I won't. Don't worry. I will give it a 4 out. Give it a 4 out.
Yeah. Well, just because it's not a film, Ethan. God, you can't like a story.
Sorry.
Doesn't even get the 30 club. That's disgraceful.
Yeah.
What is it? What's it on at the moment?
What did it need?
27.
27. Well, that's a bit too high. If it was 29, I would have upped my score immediately. I'd be like, "Fuck you guys." Fair enough. I mean, it is old. I suppose it does.
I was old.
It does miss some modern conveniences. It's no Call of Duty adrenaline rush, but it's still.
Kojima, just because he gave us too well, like, oh, these
Oh, no.
Americans don't get it.
Well, fuck,
I've
I'm sure Death
prestige.
Stranding did fine with reviews, though. Is my point. Or is the point? You know what I'm
I've
saying?
prestiged on Chrono Trigger.
I mean, it does kind of have that mechanic because it counts all your endings. So
Ooh.
the more you play the game, the more endings you get.
When you complete the game and you go back and do a new plus, Chrono gets a chainsaw and you can use that.
Oh,
First
that
game to ever
would
do a
be-
new game plus. There you go. Bit of
Ooh.
information. Do you
What's
know
that?
what?
Yeah, Ethan. One last question before we move on to the Iron Giant. If you
Hang on.
weren't playing this for a review, do you think you would have finished it?
Do I think what?
Do you think you would have finished it?
I did finish the game.
If you weren't,
Yeah, I'm saying if you weren't playing this game for review, do you think you
Oh.
would have finished it?
I doubt it very much.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Harry, what did you say about New Game Plus?
yeah, the first game ever to do new game plus.
That's pretty cool.
Introduced.
None of us can review this game because we haven't completely done an infinite amount of new game pluses. I guess it's got a 0 out of 40 then. Alright, let's get on to Iron Giant.
Okay.
Alright,
Tony.
so Iron Giant, it's a animated film about a big robot that comes to space and has to learn how to blend in, has to dodge the US military in the midst of like I want to say like Cold War, like, ooh, is it a Russian robot kind of thing scenario, and it has to learn, what it means to be good, to be a hero, and it's just a very heartwarming tale of a big robot. It's a bit like Neon Genesis Evangelion in that way, so it's also good. And it's quite simple in comparison to the millennia-spanning story of Chrono Trigger. So it is just ultimately a tale of learning about this robot and his relationship with the main character, who has the worst name I've ever seen in my entire life,
Hogarth Hughes.
Hogarth. And I honestly,
That's one of
It's a
the.
stupid name.
No, I'm going to defend the name Hogarth. It's
I
one of the
feel
few
like-
elements they carried over from the book. So I'm going to defend it as like a nice callback. And it is a stupid name, but like, it's also a plot point. That's such a unique name.
yeah, true. And I mean, I don't think it's. Although it's bad in the sense that if I met someone with a name with that in real life, I'd be like, that's a bad name. But
It was
in
the
terms of
50s.
like
Like,
in terms of like the story, though, I feel like it sells the uniqueness of that character. So I think that's a fairly brief summary, but I think it's more in the execution. So I'd like to hear your thoughts.
do you want me to do more context about the production?
Yeah. You probably know more about it, the context of these things than me. I know it's
so,
same guy as Incredibles.
yeah, Brad
that's what I
Bird. Oh,
I can't believe I picked two of his things without even noticing.
and you picked Brad Bird's
Say-
two best things as well. You missed Incredibles 2, Tomorrowland, and Ratatouille, which are all very good. Actually, are they all good? I haven't seen Tomorrowland.
Ratatouille is pretty decent.
Yeah, I was going to say all fine, then I remember Ratatouille exists.
Ratatouille is better than one. So.
Ethan, don't fuck with me. So Brad Bird directed it. It's a Warner Brothers animation film. Most of it was completely traditionally animated, and it's kind of in that era. Well, I think we've just had Toy Story, right? That would have been the year before, or a few years before. So Pixar are coming through with their new kind of computer-generated animation, and that kind of takes over, and this kind of animation kind of died down. So I think that's part of the reason the film was a massive flop. I mean, it lost a ton of money. No one saw it.
Shame.
But it's since kind of gone to cult viewing. It was one of those films that like didn't really hit an audience, but like when it came out on VHS and then later DVD, it kind of raised a lot of children, I think. So it's based on a book, like I said, it's based on a book called The Iron Man. But they changed the title because there's a guy in America who's quite popular called Iron Man. Never heard of him. Yeah, they changed the name. They've actually kept very little of that, because that book was written by a poet, and it is quite poetic. And it's more of a fable than a piece of science fiction. Like it's like a creature falls from the sky, the Iron Man. But it's very much more fantasy than anything else. Like the end of the book, the Iron Giant, after kind of becoming Earth's savior, has to fight an interdimensional dragon by tricking it into flying into the sun. It's very weird. And the Iron Man doesn't talk for the whole book, and then the final chapter he just speaks fluent English. It's actually quite a lot of fun. It would take you like 20 minutes to read. You should do it.
Where does the dragon even
Sounds
come
really funny.
It's just an interdimensional dragon that wants to eat the planet. So it's like, I think it says like, if you can't offer me, it's like the Belko experiment. It's like, if you can't offer me a portion of your population to eat yourself, I'll eat all of you. And then the Iron Giant's like, no. And then
Wait. So has the plot of the book got nothing to do with the American military? Is it just about this dragon that wants to eat
it's about
her?
a small town. It's set in England. It's about a small town community that dislike so there's that kind of paranoia about. Obviously, it's not set during the Cold War, and they kind of try and trick it, and Hogarth tricks it into falling down a big hole. I like the book. I'm not going to shit on it, but the idea is just to take this outsider falling from kind of space, you know, but like turn it into like a wholesome family film. Like it's quite uplifting and has good politics and is cute. I know Ethan won't let me say that word, but like Wall-E is one of my favorite films of the time. And I feel like this kind of draws on a lot of that same kind of things that like nichely appeal to me. Yeah, The Iron Giant. CGI was I'd never actually said this. I was getting onto it and I got sidetracked. They used CGI to animate the Iron Giant.
Yeah, is he rotoscoped? He looks like he is.
Which is really cool because it kind of, for me anyway, it kind of gives this outer worldly feeling because this thing that like doesn't move like everything else. The voice cast, I don't know most of them. I know Jennifer Aniston's in it.
Vin Diesel, of course, is the giant.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, he's not got many lines. It's like one of his voice work is just getting paid money to say very few things. He's also Groot.
But he is good at just saying very few things in really great voices.
It's the best thing on this CV for sure.
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, it's a good movie. Well done, The Iron Giant. That was the production and my opinion, kind of. Someone else will.
Again, I'll agree with Harry. God, this is the rarest episode. I really like this film. I think it has a very strong, consistent theme that it represents throughout. You know, lots of moments, especially with the fact that it shows Hogarth showing the Iron Giant Superman comics, and it really sells the idea that, you know, it's saying like you choose who you want to be, right? And it also has a lot of, you know, Cold War political tension about you know, that sort of fear and stuff. I really like the joke that comes back, the joke that starts off with like, if there's a nuclear bomb, just hide under your desks, and at the end it's like, no, a nuclear bomb we'd just all be dead. And it's like, fuck you.
It's a
I
great
really
thing
like that.
of like decades later, a filmmaker kind of looking back on not even their childhood, just like maybe the years slightly before their childhood, and kind of like reviewing it with like a critical eye, like in terms of kind of mocking US attitudes during the Cold War, and this kind of and like, because it takes place at quite an interesting point in the Cold War as well. I feel like in it, I think it's 57. It's set, I want to say. Yeah.
Why'd you say it's an interesting point?
Because like it's not. I don't think at this point we're at peak. Oh my god, the nukes are going to go off any minute. I feel like it's more like unrest. It's just kind of it's almost getting to that point where people are like just kind of being distrustful of everything, and it's less nuclear weapons and more spies.
Well, yeah, the whole idea of setting it before where it gets really bad is to show what causes that, people's public perceptions and things like that, and where we went from there to, I guess, the 60s, which is where things really properly kicked off, right?
Yeah, well, Watchmen is like set on like the oh my god, the nukes are gonna go off any minute. Like that's kind of like what Watchmen does. That it kind of goes for that period. Whereas this is more about the paranoia. And I love that this film has so few characters. It's such a small scale film.
Yeah,
Like,
it tells that it's a really small town as well.
that's one of the few things they actually took from the book. Just this idea that it's a very isolated community, and there is this outside force that are interested, and it's very this film's antagonist is very cartoonishly over the top, which I admire a lot. That it's kind of like he's such an embodiment of just that paranoia and panic and kind of everything that's kind of wrong with like people. Like he just doesn't trust the outsider. He's that kind of like he thinks he's doing it for the right reason, but he's so not willing to kind of listen to reason, and he decides to launch a nuclear weapon onto himself to kill this thing. And it's only once he's like launched the nuclear weapon that he's like, fuck. That's the only moment of clarity this character ever has.
I do kind of respect this film for having like a very clear person underemployed of the US military be like an out and out like the bad guy. Like we're the villains, kind of moment. Are we the baddies? Which is quite neat. I know we brought up is Chrono Trigger political as a joke, but this one it's definitely got something to say.
This film has perfect politics. It's the Joker of its time. Yeah, no, I love this film.
That's good.
I hadn't ever seen or really heard of it as a child.
Wow,
so my first time watching it as a 19-year-old, just like, this is good. This is good.
There were a lot of strange moments where there were some scenes that I was convinced I had never seen before, and some things that had been like burned into like the back corner of my mind where I was like, oh god, it's coming back. It's coming back.
Did you guys see the dream sequence? Because
I didn't with the version I had.
Yeah, because it's got a bit of a Star Wars thing where the special edition version of this film has an extra scene, which because like they never actually explain where the Iron Giant came from and what its purpose is. I mean, it's told through the film. Like it's very clearly told this is like this is made or is some form of alien creature that has been sent to kind of scout the planet to destroy it, but it doesn't want to do that because it was damaged. But it explicitly kind of shows that in a sequence that was deleted, that was added into the special edition, where it has a nightmare and you see like thousands of Iron Giants being sent to a bunch of different planets. It's a very
Does it work? Is it a good sequence?
It's a very good sequence if you're just watching it as a deleted scene. In the film, I think it kind of ruins it. But
because you get all of the information just from watching the film.
It's a film that is a film. You don't have to have it explained to you. I mean, there is a child character who goes, "Whoa, I can't believe that this is happening," because it's a film for children. But I was just curious if anyone else has seen that scene.
No, I don't think
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, I definitely didn't. And I don't remember it from when I because I did watch it. I'm pretty sure I did a really long time ago when I was really, really young. I can't remember how young I was, but it was a really long time ago. And I'm glad that I went back to rewatch it. I'm glad I didn't picked it because I had a good memory of it, and it was good to go back and rewatch. Because I had memories of specific parts of the film, most of the beginning and most of the ending, and I sort of wanted to piece those two together, and I had a reason to do so. And I think it's a really well made film. I think the parts of it that really do shine out to me the most. We've already talked about the qualities of the film. I really like the idea of a robot that was made to destroy and come into terms with the fact that even though that's what its purpose was, it still has the chance to change. I really like that a lot. I like all of the sort of in-jokes that they have. I can't remember what the exact thing is that they say, but that scene in the classroom where they go underneath the desks and stuff, there's like a really... I think it highlights a lot of ignorance that time really, really well, actually. But I think what the film does really, really quite particularly well is the giant itself. I think Vin Diesel does a really good job with the voice acting. Again, he doesn't have very many lines to say, but he but the emotion that he carries in his voice in such a gruff, rough voice, he does that so well. For this huge, clunky, like mechanical thing that shouldn't be something that you can sympathise with, but through voice acting and through, as Harry said, CGI, it really does come across as this really quite peaceful creation. So yeah, no, I think that's done a really good job. Yeah,
I really love how much of a sense of weight and how just big this robot is. Like with the fact that when he sits down, there's like an earthquake, and when he dives into that lake, there's just a tsunami.
The sound, I think the sound design.
I think it's really good.
Yeah,
it's like, because I feel like the film is grounded, but it's got like with the elements of the giant, there are kind of cartoony physics at play sometimes. And some of the things it can do that kind of, again, aid this out-worldly kind of experience. And like, I don't know if you guys like this as much, but I love how it just goes hard in the third act. Like, they don't have him almost kill people, like almost, and then get stopped at the last second. He's straight up murdering dudes. Like, this film goes hard. It's like, no, this is what would happen. This is the rules that we have written for this character. This is what it would be like. And of course, the character still gets redeemed, and you understand it's not their fault. But that third act does not hold back. I mean, they fucking launch a nuke. That nuke is headed for that town.
Yeah. I do like it when he goes full on death mode. Like he
Ready
fires
Player One
those
mode.
beats. Yeah. God. Ready Player One. You totally sided me with that comment. I'm not gonna lie. No, I'm kidding. When he goes like full on like death mode, and he's just like firing energy pistols everywhere, and he's like he fires that one shot that goes and just misses the battleship, and you see that shockwave in the distance. You're like, oh fuck. You do get the sense of how the US military, it's trying to take control of this situation, but it just doesn't understand the threat they're up against.
It's the Arrival thing, isn't it? It's the same.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well.
Again, ties into one of the best films ever made. But shall I say the comment that everyone said on the internet for like 20 years, and everyone's fucking bored of? It's the best. It's the best Superman film ever made. Yeah, that's it's annoying to say because everyone fucking makes that joke, but it is kind of true. It understands what Superman is better than anything else.
Yeah,
this is the most I've ever cared about Superman. And he's it's just mentioned as a comic book idea, and it's just like, there's a pretty good idea behind that superhero there. Yeah,
and they bring it up just enough times that it doesn't get annoying. And like they set it up well enough that the payoff at the end is incredibly kind of like at that moment I almost don't know how to react because like it's very emotional, but it's also kind of funny and it's uplifting. It's just such a brilliant kind of moment that at the end. And I don't know about you guys. I think me and Ethan kind of argued about this a little bit. I feel like the ending when he kind of puts himself back together, whilst being nice, is almost unnecessary. I feel like.
Well, considering the fact that it's a children's film, I have a feeling that that's there because, like, imagine your 7-year-old, Harry, Ethan, or Tony, right, and they're just bawling their eyes out because the big robot just died.
Yeah,
that's the moment where the dad could be like, or mum could be like, look, it's okay, the robot's pulling itself back together.
I feel like the death is has such a purpose to it, and the Android is so kind of accepting as what it's become at that point. It's almost. It's an okay place to leave it. And I also feel like, I don't know, like Bambi exists, children's films have, this film has an explicit reference to Bambi, where the Iron Giant finds a dead deer dying and a child looking after it, and the Hobo has to explain what death is. Like, this film literally references Bambi in that way. I feel like it maybe would have been more powerful without that, but I like it, it's nice. It's like I don't want to spoil the farewell, but the farewell has a similar thing, where it's like it would have been more powerful without a final piece of information that's quite relieving. But I'm happy. They're both amazing films.
Yeah, maybe it would have been powerful, but it does kind of remind me of the version of Toy Story 3 where someone cut and showed their mum that just ends when they're all about to go into the incinerator.
It's
It's
a
like,
really
yeah.
good video.
That'd be powerful, but I'd die if I watched it. Yeah, I don't know. I do still think that the ending really has a lot of weight. It is one of the best superhero films in the sense that it's obviously what it is ultimately about. Just, you know, sacrifice in that moment, and choosing to do the right thing, which is it's quite heavy hitting, quite powerful.
Did the
I
Iron
do
Giant
like
do the right thing?
Can you
I
imagine if
remember
one
the
of us
part where
was like, no?
Hogarth throws the trash can through the window.
Because this film is so perfect, I have very little to say about it. I'm just like, yeah,
It's kind of good. It makes
great.
our jobs a lot easier.
just watch it.
It's very funny. I like the fact that children's films their length is tied to the size of a child's bladder, which makes them nice and small and easy to watch.
Yeah,
That's genuinely true, by
runtime
the way.
is
That's
so
not a joke. That's literally what they do when they're doing the runtime of a children's film. Just so you know. But
Hey, do you remember the Ready Player One?
it's really
thing
good.
They did with the Iron Giant.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
made a little aside from it.
Yeah. Harry said that earlier.
Oh.
I do like Ready Player One. All right, that's a massive side. This is a sidetrack.
I mean,
But when Ready
I think
Player
I like
One-
it more than most. It's a 3-star film, but yeah, it's fun. The bit with the
Ready
shiny is
Player-
very good.
Ready Player One actually references another. It uses the Iron Giant to reference. Doesn't it have reference the Terminator where it has that
Terminator
thumbs
2
up,
with the thumb up.
Yeah.
which is really funny. Like,
This is another
like,
poignant machine's death.
Yeah, and it's the fact that it's like, okay, the Iron Giant references Superman in its own film and references Terminator in Ready Player One, and it's
There is
both
a
about
scene in Terminator 2 where he puts
heroism.
himself back together after he's killed himself.
Nah, I mean there are the Terminator sequels,
Shame.
which basically are the equivalent of that.
We almost looked at a film you did the other day.
Oh yeah, we won't talk about that. Johnny, you didn't say too much. I mean, I get that there isn't too much to say because it's such a solid film. But do you have any more thoughts?
One of the things I find interesting with this film is the sort of character of the general of the army. Just because he's one of the nicest appearing generals in any film that I can sort of easily think of. He just, I don't know, it's something I remember, I think Ethan saying.
Yes, it definitely was,
that,
yeah.
Yeah, that you'd almost expect he'd be the one that'd be like, oh yeah, we've got to nuke this thing first, whereas he's a lot more. You can see how he's thinking it through and is like, no, this isn't a strategy that's working, and it's just the person in a more typical, well, I say more typical job in like the FBI or whatever, who is the one who is ill-informed about it and therefore makes this over the top call. I think that's quite an interesting thing.
And I see where you're coming from, and I do agree with you to an extent, but I still have the opinion that I think, for me, the idea of the general being the one to call the missile would make more of an impact on me, because that would show me how it would talk about how it's the people who really do have the power, who do have the position, who can do these sorts of things, and what it comes down to is a matter of opinion rather than fact with the people in that position. And I think that I would have found that a lot more scary than just some guy who had access to the remote and just wasn't looking properly. And in a sense, I know that I've just realised that's also quite scary too. But I don't know. I think that's less likely to happen than someone who actually does have the power to make
I get
that
what
choice.
Ethan's saying. I do think it might be more of a case of the film didn't want to come out and say like the entire US military is bad, you know. It does sort of have the general be there to be like, okay, you know, we're mostly the good guys, you know, and there's in the film suite, we're mostly the good guys, and it was just it was a few rogue actors that were at risk of botching the whole situation up.
I mean, the troops. I support you all as a concept, for the individuals. The film is basically doing that. It's doing the should we support the troops bit from our country. Murder in Time.
You know, this film makes metal look really tasty.
Makes
I just
what?
want to
Sorry.
see like metal look really tasty. Like I see like an
Yeah.
iron ingot, and I'm like, damn, I just want to take a bite out of that. I just want to eat it.
You know,
You know?
if I was that boy's mother, I'd be concerned with how much time he spends with a much older man.
She's not a very good mother.
No, she's not that great.
Well, she's a single mum, right? You know, she's got to do what she's
Yeah,
got to
I
do.
suppose that's true.
Yeah, she is very.
I do.
She doesn't. I thought the artist character was going to turn out to be like a villain or something.
I really like him. He's like really chill.
No, he is. Yeah, he's really, really cool.
Such a great guy.
Yeah. I do like that it has like a. Like normally, you know, kids' films would have the whole like, oh, okay, all the adults are, you know, we have to keep them out of the loop and only the kids can be cool. It's like, no, there's this weird middle-aged scrap collector who's like also a cool guy, and I like that.
Yeah. There's also some really well paced and structured like individual sections in the film. The one that I remember the most as in being like actually all the moving parts, that's really good, is when he's in the house with his mum and the FBI guys knock at the door and the hand is just creeping around the house into different rooms, and the way that sequence
really good
comes
as well.
together is yeah.
I love the sequence where the train's coming and he's got to put the
yeah.
just the animation of the old giant like leaned over this
he's-
train track trying to push them together. It's just such a
trying to do like really fine maneuvers. It just derails the train.
yeah.
Yeah, I think the film is really well paced in that sense. You know, doesn't linger. It's not 3 hours long like Magnolia. I'm bringing it back. Time loop.
It's the only time
How many
those two films have been set in the same sentence.
How many different time travel based things have we done on this podcast?
Looper?
Looper. Oh
do you
god, I
count to
totally
the
forgot
moon?
about that one.
Yeah.
Huh?
Do you count To the Moon?
Yeah, I'd say so, right?
Fair. Yeah. Why not? To the Moon. Arrival, right?
Yeah, I mean that's
Chrono Trigger.
But like, who is actually listening to this? And if they have, they probably would have heard our episode on Arrival, so they'd already know that.
I was just thinking of a lot of the pianist jokes I could have made in that, but I won't make them.
Should we wrap up the Iron Giant?
Yeah,
Feels like
I
we've said
think.
everything. It's weird because it's such a good film. You want to talk for ages, but there's so little to say.
Yeah. It's that
Yeah,
runtime,
honestly,
I would've
like
said.
in the time you could listen to this podcast, you could watch the Iron Giant,
Yeah.
which would be a better use of your time.
Much better use.
Yeah.
Dan.
Oh,
Shout out to Dan.
random point, but Brad Bird also directed Mission Impossible: Rogue Nation, which was one of Tony's honorable mentions, I think.
Why?
Really?
Why
Yeah,
did
Tony
you
just
pick
really-
that film?
He just really likes Brad Bird.
Did
Let's
I
see.
Mission
It was
Impossible?
Where
one
is
of
it
your
mentioned?
honourable mentions before we officially started doing honourable mentions after Retcon. So in the early episodes before we actually like retconned and like put in solid ones.
Oh, is
said-
it because I just said because of the reloading his arms animation?
No, was it Rogue Nation? Oh no, it's Ghost Protocol. That's the one you said. That's the Brad Bird one. The one where he climbs the building. In
Oh yeah,
Dubai.
no, that is good.
I've
That's cool, yeah.
I have seen that one. Okay,
Yeah, that's
I can
number
see
4,
why I
yeah?
would have picked that
That's
one.
number 4.
Yeah, that's the one that you picked for 2015, I want to say. I think.
That's very strange. I would have probably picked something else if I'd given that one.
Oh yeah,
thought, but
since
oh well.
since Retcon you have picked something else. I just want to say you're obviously a big fan of Brad Bird.
Yeah, what is that?
I know.
LIADST.
Ethan, did you say something?
Yeah, what is that you've picked for 2015? LIADST. It's your
Oh, that's Lovers in a Dangerous Space Time.
Ah.
Anyway, yeah. Brad Bird is up there with Hayao Miyazaki for being a director that I picked twice. It's good.
Solid.
I'm gonna start off the scoring with giving this a solid 9 out of 10.
Alright, fair enough. Do you want me to go? No, actually, I'll go.
We could do the same order as last time.
Nah, I'm gonna go last.
Okay, John.
I'm just good. It's a 9 from me as well. It possibly could be a 10 if I watched it again.
Ethan,
Do you want to go next or me?
I'm going last.
I'll go slightly lower and give it a really high 7 out of 10. it still does stand the test of time to some extent, but it doesn't hold up quite as I remembered it as a child, and it sort of let me down ever so slightly. So I can't.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm gonna go all the way. It's a 10 out of 10.
That's
Tony.
solid.
Ooh.
We've got
Have you
an
picked-
N-1 rule.
Have you picked something that I've given a 10 to before? I don't know.
I don't think so.
Probably not.
But there's a first for everything. I'm glad you like them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like some of the animated things you picked, just when they're not Japanese. That tends to be the rule.
Like I said, I feel like this is definitely very Neon Genesis Evangelion inspired.
Oh,
So-
I think I like that show. I think I will.
I don't think it would be as heartwarming and full of optimism as this is. But
Yeah, I doubt it would be as wholesome, but what is?
but you know, big robots are cool.
Yeah.
Both Chrono Trigger and Iron Giant have them, so that's why I picked them.
It's crazy
Is
how the
that-
sniffs pick up on.
Yeah, it's going to be a horrible podcast to listen to. It's just going to be sniffing and coughing.
God,
Probably
we're
out of sync
diseased.
because we haven't done this in so long.
Alright.
Anyway, thanks for listening.
Do we talk about what we're doing next year? Is that a thing before we
Tony.
get off in?
We have to spin the wheel.
We have to get into the epoch, Harry, and we go into the
Get rid of
next
that
year.
before I came on.
Yeah, we threw it in the bin.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh,
It took
wow,
us-
that
it
physical wheel
Yeah,
that
it took a while to
definitely
dismantle
existed.
the wheel to get it in the bin.
Seriously though, when did we stop using it?
I don't know
When we
got
forgot
born
that
and
it
pretended.
existed.
Yeah, probably.
I feel
What's
like
next? I actually don't know.
Firepower. Oh, it's me next.
What are you doing, Jono?
I'm doing Pokemon Yellow and the
Ooh,
Truman
another
Show.
big old RPG. Another film.
I played Pokemon Yellow over a year ago in preparation. Oh, my god.
Well, if that's everything, then...
Is there no way that we can just review the Truman Show for twice as long and forget Pokemon Yellow?
Ethan, I'm sorry, you have to play massive RPGs. You're contractually obliged. That's all we do now with the RPG cast.
Brilliant.
Alright. Goodbye. We all stopped.
That ended so abruptly.